All right, so in this session, we're going to go over some basics of email and basics of the Gmail account. What I have here is a simple little email that was sent, and the instructions basically were to let me know that the learning modules have been completed and the student would like to schedule an exam. Now, this is what we consider text talk. Okay, so we really advise against writing an email using text talk. And you can see it says, yeah, I've completed all my learning modules and I need my exam. Can you schedule my exam? We're missing punctuation. The spelling is incorrect. A little text talk with the letter N instead of and. The I is lowercase. So when you write an email, you really want to write it in a professional manner, whether it's a simple 2-sentence email to a professor or even to a colleague. So if we take a look at another example, I'll scroll down here. Notice we have our salutation, good evening, Professor Smith, with a comma. Then we have the body, and then we have our closing. So, good evening, Professor Smith. I have completed all my learning modules. Please schedule my exam for September 5th. Thank you. And then sign the student. Now, this is a nice professional email with a salutation, body, and closing. And this is the way you really should write an email, whether it's to your professor, a colleague at work, and we really advise to stay away from this text talk, okay? All right, so now I'm going to talk about Gmail. If you're a Virginia Community College student, you actually have a VCCS email that is your Gmail account. It gives you unlimited storage for your Google Drive. If you're not a student, then you can actually create a free account. And if you just type in Google in the search box, you'll see you can go to google.com. And if we click on Google, it will take us to the homepage where you can access Gmail. So notice here we have Gmail up here in the upper right hand corner. If you click on this Gmail tab right here, it will bring you to a page where you can either type in your current address or you can create an account. So if you notice here, we have sign in or you can create your account. And like I said, this is a free account. If you're not a student for Virginia Community Colleges, then you will have limited storage for your Google Drive. Okay, so I've signed into my dashboard as a Germana student or Germana instructor, and you can see right here we have our little Gmail tab. This is really the easiest way as a student or employee to get to your Gmail. So if we click on this tab right here, it's going to bring me to my email. All right, so here we are at our Gmail. And if you notice, I have 3 tabs: primary, social, and promotions. And based on the categories, Gmail will start to separate your emails out. So I like to turn this into one main mailbox. I don't like to have these different tabs up here. And also, generally, conversation view, this is what this is called. I sent myself a couple emails, and you can see here, there's a number 4 right here. So if I open this up, they're all stacked. So if you can imagine, if you're having a conversation with somebody and you may have 10 emails, they're all going to be stacked. What you've sent, what you've replied, and they're all going to be in here. And to me, it gets a little cumbersome. I like to have all my emails, separated out so that my sent emails are in my sent link here, and the ones that I receive are compiling in my email mailbox. So to change these settings, we're going to go over here to the upper right corner, and this little cog right here, you can see if I hover over it, it says settings. I'll click on that, and there's a couple different things. You can change the way it looks, you can change your theme, and there's some other things that can be changed. And of course, this is all preference based, so you can get in here and explore. But this right here, see all settings, if I click on that, it's going to bring me into this box of, settings with all these different tabs that I can choose from. There are a lot, so I'm only going to go over a few of them. Right here, we're in the general tab, okay? So if I scroll down just a little bit, right here, this default text style, you can actually change what text that you would like to display. So here, as far as the font size, you only have the 4 options. And then you can also change the text color. And right here, we can choose the font. Okay, so this is a little way to customize the way your emails look when they go out. And if I scroll down just a little bit more, we have grammar, spelling, and autocorrect. You can actually turn these on or turn these off. Again, these are preferences. I just want to show you where these settings are. And I'll scroll down here. And here's what I was talking about, conversation view. So right now it's on, and it compiles everything into one email that will unfold. And I don't like that. So I always turn my conversation view off. And once you make a change, if you want to keep it, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom and hit save changes. So right now I'll save the changes, and then I'll go back and show you how to change the labels. So we'll save changes. And here we go. Notice it unfolded it. So basically I have the email that I received, then it shows that I replied by this little arrow right here. So I know that I replied to this person. And then again, an email that I received. So I don't have to go through a chain of emails to figure out what the conversation looked like. All right, so now we're going to remove these tabs and turn our inbox into one large inbox so that every email we receive shows up here, unless, of course, it's spam or something like that. So we'll go up to the settings, see all settings, and this is found under the inbox. So if I click the inbox, notice here are our categories. So I can just uncheck social and the promotions. Primary will always be checked, and then we'll go down and we'll save the changes. And notice now I have one solid inbox right here. I don't have the different labels or categories. Everything that I've received is going to fall right into this primary inbox. All right, and the last two items I'd like to show you in settings are your signature and vacation. So we'll go back to settings, see all settings. And this is in the general tab. So if we scroll down here, you'll notice that we have a spot where we can create a signature. If you just select create new, you can actually put in your signature, sincerely, your name, phone number, and it will attach to every email that you write. And then all the way down here, you can see we have a vacation responder. So you can actually put in out of office or, whatever it may be that you're on vacation and you want to let somebody know that you're not going to be able to respond to an email until a certain date. This is where you would put that. And then, of course, once you do that, you would have to hit save the changes again. All right, so let's take a look at the links on the left-hand side. Here we have our inbox, and of course, that's the view we're in right now. Starred, this is pretty neat. If you have an email that's really important and you want to refer back to at a later date, if you notice right here, this little star, if I select that, okay, then it will actually show up in my starred. And you notice I have a couple starred already. So as you compile emails, let's say you have 50 or 100 emails here, and this is way down at the bottom, and you remember receiving an email, this is a great way to flag it. You can just hit the starred, and then you don't even have to go look for it. You can just go to your starred folder, and that's where it'll be. Snoozed is basically you can set a time limit for your email to reopen. So let's say somebody sends you an email and they are going on vacation. You can actually snooze the email, and then it'll pop back in your inbox when you ask it to. And the way to do that is if you hover over your email, you notice we have a couple options here. We have delete, you can mark as unread, but right here is the snooze. So if I click that, here's where we can set our settings. So they give you a couple defaults, but then you can actually pick the date and the time. And you can set it for whenever you need it to show back up in your inbox. That way, if you want to send the email, let's say the night before the person arrives back at the office, you can just put it to snooze, it'll show back up, and then you can reply. And that way, let's say somebody's out of office for a whole week, you know how many emails they're probably going to receive. And the email, if it's an important email from you, you may not want to send it until it's pretty close to the time they're coming back to their office, because that way it'll be at the top of their inbox. And with Gmail, this little icon right here is the important. So if we click it, right now it's not filled, so it's claiming that it's not important. And if we click that, and notice both of these are clicked, they'll show up in your important mailbox right here. So if you need to create an email that is really important and you want to save it, you have the two options. You can put it in starred and you can flag it as important. And if you notice that, there they are right there. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit farther. We're not going to be concerned about our categories because we kind of turned those off. We'll go to more. And right down here, this is where our trash and our spam is. And here's a neat little trick if you also want to keep your mailbox clean. Let's say you're a professor and you have 3 classes, or you are a office administrator and you have a couple different things that you're managing. You can actually create labels. So if I were to create a new label right here, you just select this, and let's just call this, I'm just going to call this the test label. And I'm going to create it. And if you notice, it shows up right here, test label. Now, this is the way you can organize it. So you can make a lot of labels and you can move emails into the label. So if I hover over this email and I right click my mouse, notice it brings up this large menu. And this is where there are a lot of options, reply all, the forward, everything that was that you may need to utilize when you're working with an email. But down here, we have move to. And if you notice, I have test label right here. So if I click test label, it took it out of my inbox. So it's a nice way to organize and keep your inbox clean. If you have a lot of different subjects or things that you're working with, you can actually put them underneath the test label. And with the test label here, you can also do a couple other things with your labels. If you notice, we have these 3 little buttons right here. If I left click, I can actually create a label color. So let's go ahead and I'm going to label this red. And notice it changed my label color. So there's a lot of different ways you can organize your inbox and your labels over here on the left-hand side. All right, so let's discuss contacts now. There's a couple different ways we can do this. The easiest way is if you receive an email and you want to add that person to your contacts, just hover over the name. This little box pops up, and you notice right here we can add to contacts. Just click that, it'll add to the contacts, and once you start typing in their name in the send box, their information will pop up. The other way to do this is right here. This is your little Rubik's Cube, what I call a flat Rubik's Cube, and this is where all your Google apps are at. If you click this, notice here are your contacts. This is where you can find all your contacts. So if I click contacts, you'll notice I have a couple in here, okay? I have mine, a colleague, and then I have a fake one because I want to show you how to make a group, okay? So let's say you have, 10 students or 10 colleagues that you want to send an email to. You can actually group them into what they call a label over here. So if I create a label, and we'll just call this, we'll call this student emails, okay? And I hit save. Now I can move these into that label, okay? So you notice I have student emails right here. If we go to the student, click the more actions, I can go down here where it says change labels. Now if I have a couple different labels, this is where they'll show up. So let me demonstrate that. We'll create another label, and I'll just call this label 2 and save. So now we have student emails. We have label number 2. If I go to my student, notice here are my labels. So I'm actually going to put this student under student emails. And now that's checked, that student will show up. And then I'll put myself underneath there too. And over here, we see the number 2 has shown up. And if I click on this, there they are. So that's how we can create a contact list over here with our contacts. So that way you don't have to type in every person if you're sending multiple emails to the same people on a regular basis. All right, and finally, we'll get into writing an actual email. So here we have Compose up here in the upper left-hand corner. If I click on Compose, my little message window pops up, and I can actually enlarge this. This up here at the top, this right here is minimized. We'll shrink the window. This brings it to full screen. and this will close it. So I'm going to click on this and open up full screen. Now, there's a few things in here that we want to discuss. Now, if you're sending an email to a single person, you can just type it right here in the to box. Some people use the carbon copy if you're sending it to a couple different people. But we always need to be mindful of sending an email to other people and not letting them know somebody else's email. So let's say I want to copy somebody in, but I don't want the original recipient to know their email. This is where we use the blind carbon copy, okay? So when you are sending an email to somebody and they shouldn't have somebody else's email, you need to use the blind carbon copy. And if we click on that, it brings up this. So what you would do is you would actually send the email to yourself and then copy in everybody that you want here on the blind carbon copy line. So let's say I was going to send an email to myself. Okay, so I can put my email in here, blind carbon copy. Now you can type in, like I said, you can start typing in names in your contact list and they'll show up. The other thing we can do is that, let's say we created that contact list, right? You can actually start typing the name of that contact list, and all of the people that are in that list will show up on the blind carbon copy. They'll show up in the carbon copy line, or they'll show up in the to line. So we created that label and said it was student email. So if I start to type, if you notice right here are student emails, and there's the to Bob Smith and me. So if I click on that, there we go. So that's another reason why you want to make contact lists also, because you can actually set them to go right into your to box or your blind carbon copy or your carbon copy box without a whole lot of work being done. You just type in the name of your label and it will insert every single student or colleague or friend in that line, okay? And then, of course, right here's our subject. So we could just say, test email. And then once again, this is where the body would go. So dear or whatnot, whoever you're talking to, you want to have your salutation, you want to have the body, and then you want to have a closing, okay? Down here is how you can change the body of your email if you need to. Notice we can change our font size. You can bold, italics, underline. You can do a lot of different things down here. And also, this is an undo and a redo. So let's say I type test, and that's not what I wanted to say. Rather than deleting everything, you can kind of just hit the undo button, and it'll start to take away your actions, okay? And one last thing I want to go over with, if you're emailing an attachment, so let's say you have to send a document to somebody. This right here, this little paper clip, attach files. That's how you attach a file. And if I click on that, it will bring me to my file explorer where I can go locate my file. So if you plan on sending somebody a file, that is the function you'll use right here. You'll type your email out just like I did. You'll send it to who you want to send it to, and then put your subject in, type the body, and then click on this little paper clip. And this little paper clip right here will allow you to attach the different files. And then you have a couple of little functions down here like emojis and things of that nature that you can explore on your own.
I'm going to move on to my sections where I'm going to kind of start talking a little bit more about why we use a resume. And we kind of know, but we're going to talk about that in terms of from our information here. So again, a resume is something we want people to look at, and we want to avoid what we call the 30-second rule. A resume typically gets a 30-second look at by the hiring individual manager or whatever it might be, that whoever may be looking at it, and they're looking for key information. So you want to be concise. Where do you find that key information they're looking for? The advertisement that they put out, the job ad, the posting. And so they're looking for how to contact you. Do you have the right credentials? Are you hitting some of the information that they've asked for? What's your work experience? If you think about reading that quickly, that's 30 seconds. If they don't see that and they can't find it, it goes, unfortunately, in the round file, the trash. And so we're trying to help folks figure out how to make their most of their resumes they go through. So why do you need a resume? Well, simply in today's job market, it really is a resume tool to get you noticed. And most employers require one in some. Even if you do an online application, there'll often be places to post your resume. And so you want to make sure you have one because it shows the extra steps that you've taken for the job application, and it gives them additional information that might not be asked in a particular fillable application. So you want to impress that employee with your resume, and it can really make a difference. The professional way that it looks, the use of the words, the communication style that you have will really set you apart, and often will be the gatekeeper for letting you into that next element, which is the interview and hopefully the job. So that's why it's important to have a resume that can effectively let the employer know what you can do for them. So again, it's a marketing tool. What can you do to market yourself for them, the buyer, the employer? So good, well-written resume, well-written is the starting point. So the product you're selling is yourself. They're posting an ad for something. You're selling something that they want to pay for. Think about it in that way. They're going to pay you a salary, and you want to make sure you're matching your skills on paper for what they're asking for. So it's an advertisement. It advertises you, your unique skills and qualifications, and it stresses the benefit you have to offer, and in this case, the employer. So think of yourself as a product and the employer as the consumer. And how would you sell yourself? What do you want yourself to look like? You want yourself to come through very positive and very professional and communicating effectively what you have that they need. The job posting will tell them what the buyer is seeking. Do you have listed what they're searching for? I often tell folks to think of a resume as similar to what you would go to if you went to a car dealership, and in the window of the car is the description of what the car has. And you as the buyer going to buy the car goes up to the window and you're looking for, air conditioning and leather seats and power steering and all those things. And you're hoping to find that on the list because you might be peering in the window, might be a day that they're even closed, and you're trying to just get a view of what the car might have. You know what you want, you're the buyer. Does the vehicle have it? Does the listing on the window have it? That's your resume. Does your list have what the buyer wants? And if it does accurately, and you've honestly put it there, then you're going to make a good match. So I also think, do I have what they're searching for? And I want people to think in what we call transferable skills and highly sought after skills. So there's the skills versus employer benefits. When you write your resume, make sure you make every effort to highlight how you can benefit the employer. What are you bringing to them that they want? And again, it goes back to the advertisement. A skill list is good, but make sure you can identify your skills and how they are specific into what the employer wants. Okay, so let's look at them. The 10 top qualities and skills employers are looking for. Obviously, the number one is communication skills. Now, how do we interpret that in a resume? It could be through customer service. It could be through other means. They're often looking for people who are obviously honest, and that could be through handling financial transactions. Oh, there's a transferable skill. It equates to honesty if they've allowed you to do that. Technical competency, very big, very important. Kind of why we're really offering these workshops. Computer competencies, specific programs, listing those, your ability. Hey, you're all on a Zoom call right now, so you can all operate virtually. That's a plus. You might be coming from a work environment where you haven't had to do a lot of technical or computer skill building. And that's kind of, again, why we're offering this as a community service to help you look at what skills you need to develop. Because if we're looking at this new hybrid virtual online world in competency, do I have some of those? So listing those specific skills that you have in your good work ethic. How do we see that? What's the transferability of that? Well, longevity in a position, signs of promotion. Those are things that often indicate work ethic. Have you been asked to train people at a job? Maybe it's not specifically in your work profile, but you're doing that. That shows work ethic, and that shows that you're looking to really help the company. It kind of goes along with flexibility. Jobs are constantly changing. I usually work in an office and meet students when they come into the campus. Look, we're being flexible. Jobs are constantly changing and evolving, and employers want people who can grow and learn as that change comes. How have you shown that through your company? Have you been able to be flexible? Or maybe it wasn't a volunteer opportunity or something to do within a church lead or scouts or something. Often when I go through this list with students, and they may not have had a job that they feel like is relevant, or they haven't had a job at all, a lot of these things could be portrayed through class interaction, group projects, working with faculty members, turning things in on time, working independently. So those, and then if you've had to go from in-person to online, certainly flexibility there. So communication skills, honesty, technical ability, work ethic, flexibility. Determination and persistence. How do we see that? Hey, you're doing that right now. Ability to learn new things. And you want to convey that you've learned new programs and that you've been able to train other people and that you've worked through different episodes of change in your company. Ability to work in harmony and with coworkers. Obviously, we need to know about working with diversity and different people from different cultures and being able to do it through conflict. Almost every interview I conduct, we have to have a question about how do you handle conflict or tension in the position and the evidence of it. So evidence is teamwork. Again, we go back to if you have been given the responsibility to train others, and maybe again it's unofficially, but you know that every time somebody new starts in your company, they ask you to train them, show them around, get them going the first couple of weeks. That indicates that you're able to work well with others, and that's really important. That's a good transferable skill. You talk about analytical and problem solving skills. Can I figure out, how to do things independently is really what that's saying. And so, instead of saying ability to work independently, you're able to analyze, problem solve, and then you help others do that as well. So we go back to, the one above with teamwork, but also analytical problem solving can also be a very independent way. Loyalty, commitment to something. And so again, maybe a longevity in a work environment. It may be a very long volunteer experience where the last 18 months, 2 years, you've gone to the SPCA once a month and you've helped with the shelter, and you've helped clean the animal area, and you've helped with information for people who are going to adopt and kept all the information. Loyalty and commitment to something. You finished a degree. You have been committed to volunteering with Scouts. I tell students all the time, you want to stay in a position if you can a year. Job jumping is very challenging. Sometimes it happens, but how do you explain that? And we're going to talk about that in one of the other sessions. But
hey, Marie.
Yeah.
So we have a question. I don't know if you have time, but it says, if you have time, will you bring up CV or curriculum vitae?
Okay, we will. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we're also going to talk a little bit, because we're in the basics of like formats of resumes and stuff like that.
Great.
So we'll see if we can get a little bit to that. It's a little bit deeper than what we might be doing today. But we will cover that before we end the sessions. And finally, critical thinking goes back to working independently, but also you're given something to do. Do you know the next steps? Do you know what to do all the time? Do you know how, have you problem solved? If you create something new for your company, make sure you're indicating that. So if you list these things as part of the benefit to a company, the benefits you bring to organization, the body of your resume, which comes next under experience, you're going to highlight this a little bit more. So remember, we're thinking about the 30 seconds. We're thinking we've gotten them in with that list of great benefits we have that match to their job description. And then we go further into talking about maybe any credentials that we might have, formal or formal credentials. And then we go into potentially where we got that experience from, okay? And then we can have a little bit more description with that. Okay, so now what? So we have a resume with words employers are looking for. We got their intention, but we want the important information first, like I said. That first top section. If you have to go to page 2, that's the stuff that maybe might be down the road. But we want that first page to grab them. Many employers only get halfway through the reading the candidates' resumes. Absolutely true. We often in the college, when I'm sitting on the hiring board, we'll have anywhere from 100 to 180 applications come in. And we have certain criteria. If we can't find that criteria quickly, and we've got that many resumes to go through, we're concerned as to how the person will interpret how to do a job if they can't be concise. So make sure you highlight the most important information first to ensure that they read the entire resume. So if they see something good, they go, okay, let's find out where this is coming from. Impress them before they get bored. That first top section again. So specific work experience. Do not list every single work duty. We know for certain jobs, certain things that you do, but instead highlight the ones that connect with the job or jobs that you're applying for. Yes, this might mean customizing your resume. But the beautiful thing is that between the skills that Dave's showing you and some of the tools that we'll teach you with a program we use called College Central Network, which is an awesome resume writing tool, which we're offering to you, as part of our community, you can customize the resume. And so you might have done one job that has some specific things that match with one job you're applying for, but another job that has some other things. And so again, we want to make sure we highlight those things first. So make sure all the requirements are shown in your resume that match if you have them. Good communication skills, a well-written resume is your introduction. Remember, if we go back to the top benefits, people want people that can communicate. Writing, verbally, personally, interactive, whatever way it might be. But your resume is your only initial way in which you can communicate with folks. And so they want to make sure they see that, okay? So a little bit I want to talk about briefly is the art of the cover letter. Often we'll do a resume. So you're sending a cover letter with your resume that clearly demonstrates your understanding of the skills that are needed for the job. This is great. You're providing an example. But a cover letter will go a little bit further. Your ability to understand the posted job and how your transferable skills match. And so you want to make sure that you're going into a little bit more detail. So you might say you want to go work in a veterinarian hospital. Well, you don't have a lot of direct experience paid, but let's go back to the SPCA. That's considered experience. You know that the federal government considers a viable volunteer experience, meaning something that's done with considerable amount of time and effort, to be put down on a resume as experience. A lot of other jump companies do as well, because it's saying experience, not work experience, because it might constitute pay, but experience. So again, we go back to if you've gone every month to the SPCA for the last 18 months, and you've helped with data collection for where the animals have gone, and you've data collection for bringing the animals in, and the care that they've been given, and the shot records, that's really important stuff. And the fact that you're doing it without getting paid shows a lot of commitment and all those other skills that we talked about with honesty and reliability and critical thinking. All those kind of fall into that. So you might want to in your cover letter say that, you know, that my love is animals and my passion, I've committed to the SPCA for the last 2 years. And I want to take that skills that I've built with them and work in a veterinarian hospital. You may have been doing something in customer service and retail, so you've got the customer service part, because again, people are bringing animals and pets in, and then you're combining that with your time that you've worked with as a volunteer with the SPCA. You can explain a lot in a cover letter, and that's where that personalization comes in. So somebody asked a little bit about CVA or VITA type of thing. That'll be a little bit more of an above topic, because I want to talk about the two main types of resumes in which people really generally present themselves. One is called a chronological resume. And that's simply where you're going to list in order your job. Now, of course, you're going to have your contact information, and you're going to have your skills and benefits area, which I call them, and any credentials. And then you're going to list in order your jobs with things that you've done in those that are really important, training other employers, and so forth. And then you might list some other things at the very end. Functional is good. Chronological is good. But we might say, maybe I need to take all the things I may have done in the Army 10 years ago, or maybe I've done a lot of things with being the secretary or treasurer for a PTA. And I want those in a different format, because I want that to come to the forefront of my resume. And you might use what we call a functional resume, where you list all this great stuff at the top that match the skills that the employer wants. And then you simply list where you may have gotten them from below. And it doesn't have to be in any kind of ordered time, but it's more of a functional, to talk about your functions that you bring and think about in that term. So chronological is in order, and functional is more if you have a lot of information and you want some other information that might be a little older, or just the more relevant information to jump out in front. We want to offer everybody an opportunity to sign up for College Central Network. It's collegecentral.germanna.com/Germanna. And this is all what we can send out. But this is our resume writing tool and job posting, and extremely informational stuff there on cover letters and transferable skills and creative ways to present yourself. If you're not a student, great. We offer you the opportunity to register under alumni, which allows you to go in and put in any information you want in order to do the registration. And I approve them every day, and then it allows you to start a resume. Throughout these segments, of course, it's really hard to write a personalized resume for everybody. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about how a resume looks. And I'll show you a lot of examples and things to do and not do. But if you want to start by signing up for College Central, and then I see you come up and you say, I would love to have someone look at my resume, we want to offer that as a resource. We know a lot of people are in transition. People are trying to figure out, where am I going? And some of the other tools we offered in the other session were career development, career exploration. You may have some great skills. How do you make them really stick out on a resume? What are employers looking for? So often we take a student and we look at, what are you looking to apply for? How does your resume match for that? Let's make it more interesting with a cover letter. When Dave went through the computer competency portion of this presentation, he showed how to write a nice professional letter. It's like, that's basically the essence of a cover letter in today's world. And then he talked about the attachment. You want to make sure you attach a really professional resume. And so that those introductions of what you do will really set the groundwork for whether you're brought to the next level of an interview. So I often encourage people, do not send out anything until you've reviewed it and had somebody else review it. I'll often send what I'm going to send to somebody else that I'm really concerned at making sure it looks appropriate, send it to myself first. So instead of sending it to Dave Laraway, I'll send it, even though it's going to go to Dave eventually, I'll send it to Marie Hawley. It pops up. I get to open it as if I'm the official receiver of it and see what it looks like. Oh, great. That's what my introductory letter looks like. Oh, great. I opened up my attachment for my resume and it's really there and it looks the way it should. Really, it's not a hard thing to do, and it just kind of gives that extra step of checking. Or send it to someone who you're not looking for a job from, a friend, a relative, me in the Career Center, and say, hey, can you look at this and make sure this looks the way I want it to, and it conveys the way I want it to? Because often we know what we're saying, but sometimes we get caught up, and when the words come out, it doesn't come out the way we really anticipated. So we're offering these things to you in terms of the resume writing tool. Again, we're going through the 2 more weeks of the session, so we're going to get further into how a resume looks. And again, Dave and I will be offering, to help augment anything. I want to kind of leave you with this, that I love to tell students. These are things that are all transferable because we all have these if we want to. 10 things that require 0 talent. If you look at this list, this will get you very far in any kind of job, because I'll often say, if I can feel this coming from somebody in a mid to entry level job, it might be the right person to take on. So you're on time or before. What's your work ethic look like? Put in some effort. Again, doesn't take anything professional credential for these. Energy. What's your body language? Are you looking to learn? Are you engaging? Even in a Zoom call, because the interviews today will most likely start with a Zoom. And what's your body language looking like in that? Do you have passion for something? And again, obviously I love animals, and I talked about the SPCA. 2 years volunteering at the SPCA. Not the job I've had, but I love it. There's a passion for something. Doing the extra, being prepared. Are you coachable? And an attitude. So it's a great list for anybody to look at, to just remind themselves, these are nothing that comes necessarily. You can get a 4.0, and if you are late for class, you probably, the work ethic, all these things can go into it. I tell students all the time, kind of a way to get a good grade is you got to show up all the time. You got to put in the effort. You got to kind of ask for extra help if you need it. Just those things, looking at this, and if you're coachable and attitude and you use your resources, you'd be amazed at what happens. And so I get this list of students all the time. They go, yeah, that's right. Zero talent, but just a little bit of interest. So just want to kind of give our contact information again. So we can help with the resume preparation. Again, we're just going through these sessions to kind of get people ready to think about what to put on it.